Hi folks, Mark Federic, La Charcuterie Anglais here. I've been asked a question at questions and answers time. This came from Anna Marie. What's a fricadella? Or frikadellen? Well, that's quite easy to answer, to explain. Frikadellen comes in many forms. I say many, they come in different forms. And you've got the Dutch frikadellen, which are sausage shaped, shall we say, or almost kebab shaped. And they come in different lengths, and they're like around about 28mm diameter. And like I say, it can come in various lengths, something like that. And they're pre-cooked, normally pre-cooked. So when you purchase them, you take them home and you finish them off on your barbecue or in your oven or whatever way you want to cook them. So that's the Dutch variation, which I don't have any to show you, unfortunately. And you've escaped me giving my plug, my shameless plug of my book, because I didn't cover frikadellen in my book. So I've saved you that. I mentioned that too many times in my other videos. Anyway, back to the question. What is it's a serious question? What is frikadellen? So now then, there's also German frikadellen, which is completely different to the Dutch frikadellen in shape. Seasonings can be the same. They're invariably they're made up with a lot of onion, which for me is essential because that's the taste. That's what it's all about. Apart from the meat, of course. And you can make frikadellen from all kinds of meat. They're predominantly made from pork, or traditionally made from pork, but you can make them from poultry and other meats. The only meat I haven't seen used for frikadellen is beef. Maybe it would be something else if it was made with beef. I don't know. But anyway, it's pork or poultry in the main. The German frikadellen I have here for you to see. All right, so I've just told you about the Dutch one, which is sausage shaped. And here is the German one. Okay. So you're all screaming out, "Oh, that's a burger." Of course, that's exactly what they look like. They look like burgers, and anybody in the right mind probably would say, "No, they're burgers. They're not frikadellen. They're burgers." So why are they called frikadellen? So anyway, that's. I have to confess, these are shop bought. I haven't made them. I do make them. Sometimes not as well as these, and these have an excellent recipe. I wish I had this recipe because it's excellent for taste. But basically, that's what it is. So, taking the plate away, what is this? That is a frikadella. Okay? Frikadella. Singular. One. Frikadella. Put them together, they become plural. They're frikadellen with an N. N for November on the end. Frikadellen. So there we are. Excuse me, getting over a cold or flu. Frikadellen, German style, burger shaped, pre-cooked, and so you make them advance, to this stage, and it's just a question of heating them up. I have to say these are fantastic to use in one of those air fryers. They really do make a good job of cooking these through, bringing them up to temperature, ready to eat with. What other accompaniments you'd like to eat with them. Now then, so also in England, we will probably call them pâtés or patties, Patties, P-A-T-T-I-E-S. And you're not wrong. Are they a burger? Well, they are if you want them to be. All right. So if you want to call them a burger, call it a burger. You're not going to offend me. But these are classified as frikadellen. Okay. That's what they are. it's up to you what you want to call them. And burgers, I tend to really call burgers where, you know, you press with their a burger press, so they, you know, they flat both sides and normally perfectly round. Whereas these Frikadellen, as you can see, you know, they've been, I think there might be some semi-automation in this, but they're not flattened down like a burger is. So you can make these by hand very easily. You don't need any special equipment. But if you did want to make life easier for yourself, what could you use? Well, these are my pastry cutting discs. So you can use different sizes, different shapes, just by using cutting disc, and even cooking in those also. But another tool I use on a regular basis. Sorry, the box has got a fair bit of tear and wear, so I do use this quite regular. But I like to store my tools in the original boxes where possible. It stops them getting broken. This video, by the way, is not sponsored, and none of my videos are sponsored. But this happens to be an excellent brand. Okay, you know, Gefu, Gifu, whatever how you want to pronounce it. So basically, if I'm just knocking up a couple of Frikadellen, and I don't want them oversized. If I was to use this, they'd be smaller than the ones I've just shown you on the plate. And here I've just got two rings with they even got the brand name on the front. Bless them, that's all they are. So they're relatively deep. You don't want them that deep. You know, a good halfway or just over the halfway mark is plenty. And this little press. So you've got your rings on a baking sheet, and then press down your meat if you wish. You know, you want to tamper it down some, but try not to make it flat like a burger. And then start your cooking process of your frikadelle with these rings. Okay, like I said, these are smaller than these shop bought ones, you know, but they're nearly the same size. You know, they're almost there. So so once you're about halfway through cooking, you can take these rings away and brown off the edges and everything else. Or you could just do it without rings. Or if you want to fold some silver foil into like a belt, shall we say, and then just enough to wrap around the frikadelle and just twist a little bit so that it keeps it together like this during cooking for a while. But to finish it off and for it to brown, then you can undo the foil and allow it to finish. So there's different ways, different methods you can do it. I just tend to use these rings, and that's good enough for me for at home. If you was retailing frikadelle, you know, maybe you'd look at it a different way. In fact, if I was retailing frikadelle, to be honest, I think I would just do them by hand. You know, because I like, you know, I like rustic, and rustic sometimes it's like a word that's often used as an excuse because you're not good enough to make something perfectly shaped and perfectly round, flat, and whatever. And there might be some truth in that, you know, and certainly from my side of things. And to be quite honest, I want to swear, but I can't be arsed, you know. And but I'm into good, honest food, you know. That's what I enjoy. Home cooked food. That's what I like. And I even like to buy home cooked food, albeit it's a contradiction, from an artisan producer in a shop, you know. So that's what, you know, where I fit in. Hopefully you do too if you're watching this video. So yeah, so don't get hung up on perfect shapes, things like that. If you haven't got the rings, don't worry about it. Just shape them by hand. And if you want the Dutch version, then you're going to need some kind of, you know, protruding tool, or you could use an icing bag or a freezer bag with the corner cut off and squeeze out that way. and it's a bit like making the ceviche sausage I've mentioned in another video. So you know that you could do it that way if you want the Dutch version. I prefer the German version, and very often as well, what I do with these, I'm not even sure if this is interesting, but I do it anyway, is I actually cut them in half that way. And in the morning for my breakfast, I usually have one of the halves, sometimes 2 halves, in my frying pan with my bacon. And I stack it up like a Strama-Max. So, you know, and we know with a fried egg on top, and you know, towering up, you know, with the frikadelle base or fried bread underneath frikadelle, and then bacon, and then fried egg on top. I could eat one now. So there we are, folks. Frikadellen, all right. And by the way, you can eat these hot or cold because they're pre-cooked. You don't have to reheat them, but they are predominantly reheated. Okay, yeah, so you could just take these and eat them cold any way you like, in the hand and bite, cut them up, whatever. It's entirely up to you. All right. I hope you enjoy, and I hope you understand the explanation of frikadelle and frikadellen, the Dutch and the German varieties. Toodaloo. If you like this video, please buy me a coffee. I appreciate it.